Hey guys, what's going on? Jebb here, and in today's video, we're going to be discussing the possibility of Bitcoin going to $60,000 or beyond by the end of 2018, and for Bitcoin to go to $1 million by the end of 2020. Now guys, in today's video, we're going to be doing the flip side of yesterday's video, which you should watch up here to get up to date, where we discussed the opinions of the bears in the cryptocurrency market. We discussed what they believe Bitcoin is going to do in the mid and long-term future. So in today's video, we're going to be discussing what the bulls in cryptocurrency believe will happen in the mid and long-term future. Now, something to keep in mind with both of these videos, guys, is that we're talking about the extreme cases. We're going to be talking about some very extreme cases, although I will be laying out their reasoning for why some of these bulls believe what they do. Something to keep in mind is that most of the opinions that I express in this video are not necessarily mine, as the same with yesterday's video. These are the opinions of some people that are very bullish in cryptocurrency. So guys, if you enjoyed today's video, definitely consider dropping a like and hitting that subscribe button, because we do cryptocurrency videos every single day here, and hopefully you guys will be able to take the information that I give you in this video and the information I gave you in yesterday's video, and then come to your own conclusion, your own educated conclusion as to where you believe Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency market will be going in the coming weeks, months, and years. So guys, let's get right into it. Bitcoin is, of course, trading around $6,500 right now, up from its low of around $6,100 just a couple of days ago. But we're not talking about short-term TA in today's video. Let's start off with the market capitalization. Bitcoin originally ran all the way up to about $820 billion in market capitalization, if memory serves me correctly. Let's see. Right around $829 billion in market capitalization in early January. That was when Ethereum was peaking out. That was after Bitcoin had already fallen off. Bitcoin has fallen all the way down to about $250 billion back here in the beginning of April. And a lot of the bulls would say that we have seen a bottom at $250 billion and that we're likely going to see continued bottoms coming in. And they will point to the fact that we do see low volume, but that low volume is a symptom of Bitcoin's price action going down. And they will also say that Bitcoin's volume is not as low compared to its price action as you might expect, because we're comparing it against Bitcoin's volume to its price back here in late December and January, which was actually overinflated, they would say. So if you go back here and you look at all-time history and you take out this basically 6-month window from September to like January or February in the major bull run in the beginning of the bear market, you take that volume over price action out, and the actual volume over price of Bitcoin is to be expected to be around where it is right now. I don't know if that made a lot of sense, but I have heard a lot of people talk about how Bitcoin's volume is actually not as low as we think it should be. It's not as dire as we think it is. It's just because we're comparing it to an overly liquid market that we saw in the late part of 2017, the early part of 2018. Moving on here, I want to talk about these two numbers that I threw at you at the beginning of the video and explain where they came from. Cryptocurrency and an ICO expert, Philip Nunn, made a prediction in January that Bitcoin would reach lows of $6,000 and highs of $60,000. Nunn recently reiterated his confidence in the prediction after the price of Bitcoin plummeted almost 18% last week. So he did, in early January, predict that Bitcoin would fall all the way down to $6,000, which is exactly what we saw. If we come here on the chart, we saw a bottom at almost exactly $6,000 to the decimal place. So he was very correct on that. And he also now predicts that Bitcoin would run to $60,000. Let's see what that would look like on the chart, shall we? I have a couple of lines set up here so that we can see exactly what that would look like. That would represent Bitcoin going to, let's go to the week chart so that we can see this a little better. This would represent Bitcoin going to this area right here, which is the intersection of the end of 2018 and $60,000, which that might seem like a massive movement. That would be a 10x from where we are now in the span of 6 months. That seems crazy. But guys, if you've been in the cryptocurrency space for over a year, I would remind you rather that Bitcoin has done that before. Actually, it did that in the second half of last year. Bitcoin started quarter three right around $2,000. And by the end of the year, Bitcoin had gone to $20,000. So the bulls and I in this case would say that Bitcoin can 10x in the span of 6 months. In fact, it's done it before, and it's done it more than once. So it is possible that Bitcoin could go to $60,000 in the next 6 months. Now, a lot of people would also say, myself included, that that would be a little bit crazy considering the sentiment in the market. We're not just going to moonshot straight to $60,000, because that would warrant the price action of doing something like that, which doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense. But like I said, we have seen markets do something similar to that before. I don't necessarily think that's going to happen, but like I said, these are not necessarily my opinions. These are the opinions of the bulls. Speaking of bulls, another prominent bull that you guys may have heard of is a guy named John McAfee. John McAfee predicts that Bitcoin will go to $1 million by the end of 2020, which is where that other number I mentioned came from. Guys, you may be familiar with his tweet where he said that if Bitcoin, I think originally he said if Bitcoin doesn't go to $500,000 by the end of 2020, he will eat his manlyhood. I believe I'm quoting him correctly there. If I'm not, correct me in the comments down below, and there'll be a correction in the pinned comment. But I'm pretty sure that's basically exactly what he said. And this website predicts or shows how Bitcoin would need to move to actually get to $1 million by 2020. And if you look here on the log scale, then this actually doesn't seem crazy. As we can see this prediction line, this would show where Bitcoin would need to go if he were to linearly move to $1 million from when he made the prediction. As we can see here on the log scale, that wouldn't actually be that crazy. Bitcoin has moved on this slope, if you will, if you're a math student, it's basically moved like this for a very long time. Now, the thing about log scales is that if you guys aren't familiar with the log scale, what a log scale is it readjusts Bitcoin's price action so that it's moved by percentages and not moved linearly. So we can see that down here, Bitcoin had a lot of movement on the log scale, but not very much on the linear scale because this is based on percentages. As we can see, that kind of shrinks the current bull market and bear market that we're in and massively amplifies the original price action of Bitcoin. But if Bitcoin were to follow this trend that it's saying, and that John McAfee is saying, and that it's been following for a very long time, it would make sense for it to go to $20,000 if it did continue this kind of cyclical pattern that we see of it coming up, crashing down, coming back up on this kind of general trend line on the log scale. It would make sense for it to go there. Now, of course, me not being necessarily on the bull or the bear side in this case, not to this extreme, I would say that for Bitcoin to go to $1 million, I made a video about that, linked it up here in the top right, to prove that it can go to $1 million, and it is possible for Bitcoin to go to $1 million. There are two problems I have with that. The first thing is that for Bitcoin to go to $1 million by 2020, it would have around an $18 to $19 trillion market capitalization, which I think is fully possible, but I don't necessarily know that that's going to happen by the end of 2020. That's a little bit too quick, but Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies do move very quickly, so I'll leave you guys to decide that for your own. Another thing is that Bitcoin is not exactly the cutting edge, bleeding edge technology that it used to be. There are a lot of other cryptocurrencies that are getting to the point where they're able to just outstrip Bitcoin in just about every single technical way, in every single technical manner. Just about every single one of these cryptocurrencies is better at doing the job that Bitcoin set out to do than Bitcoin is. Now, they might not be proven, they don't have a 10-year track record, they're not as secure as Bitcoin. A lot of them get hacked and they're lower market caps, so it's easier for them to get 51% attacked, so I understand that. But it is important to realize that Bitcoin's market dominance has been trending downwards as the altcoins have continued to develop. So that's something to keep in mind. If the entire market goes to $21 trillion by the end of 2020, that wouldn't be as insane. But that is John McAfee's prediction. Another reason why people believe that the bear market is at least over and that the bull market will be starting, a lot of you guys mentioned this in yesterday's video. You guys thought I forgot about this. I didn't forget about this. I was saving it for this video. If Bitcoin falls under $6,000, mining in most countries will become more expensive than Bitcoin's value. What will happen then? Now, I'm not going to read much from this post here on Reddit, but this is just kind of a catalyst for me to talk about it. Something a lot of you guys mentioned, and something that I didn't forget, is that if Bitcoin's price action does fall below a really important level of around $6,000, which we've seen a lot of support at, then Bitcoin would actually, in most places, depending on how expensive how expensive your electricity is and how expensive your equipment is, Bitcoin would actually be unprofitable to mine. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that we can't go below 6,000, but it does mean that we're more than likely not going to go below 6,000 in the short term. And the reason for that is because if Bitcoin does go below $6,000, the miners won't be making any money. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean we can't go below it. And the reason we can't go that we could still go below it is because if we do go below $6,000 and miners start to stop mining because they're not making any money, then you would basically be left with people that have cheaper electricity, so the price of mining on average would go down. And also, when you have less miners, the difficulty adjustment on Bitcoin would lower the difficulty, making it easier to mine Bitcoin, and then the difficulty would go down, making it cheaper to mine Bitcoin, which means that the bottom the kind of soft bottom at $6,000 for mining would go down, which means that could gradually go down, and we could see Bitcoin slowly creep down below $6,000 and further beyond. But that is certainly a good argument to say that Bitcoin can't go that low in the short term. Another thing that the bulls, and in this case something that I point to, is the amount of bullish news in the market. There's a lot of bullish news in the market lately. I talked about this in another video. You can click it right up here where I talked about a Bitcoin ETF that is being proposed to the SEC by Van Eck and SolidX Solidex and Bank of New York Mellon. They're going to be talking about creating a Bitcoin ETF backed by physical Bitcoin. It's funny to say physical Bitcoin, but physical Bitcoin. Each one of these shares in this ETF would be worth 25 Bitcoin, so around 200 or around now about $175,000 per share. This would be directed at institutional investors, but this would open the floodgates, for new cryptocurrency investors and for new institutional investors to get into Bitcoin and its cryptocurrency brethren. So if this does go through, this is a big deal for Bitcoin and crypto and could have us break out of this descending triangle or this falling wedge pattern, whichever one you want to call it, here in the next couple of months if the SEC announces that it will be enforcing this. Now, one of the last things that I want to talk about here is the actual technicals on the chart, and I also want to mention what it would look like for Bitcoin to go to 1 million by 2020 so you guys know what the chart would look like if that happened. So the first thing that I want to talk about is how I did make a mistake in yesterday's video, and I corrected it in a pinned comment less than 10 minutes after the video went up. But something I do want to mention in this video is that I called a falling wedge a bearish pattern. It's not a bearish pattern, it's a reversal pattern, and I knew that. I don't know why I said that, but it is a reversal pattern. Like I said, I know that. I know how to do TA, guys. I do this literally every single day. I know that it's a reversal pattern. I just misspoke. I guess I was flustered or something. But there are two ways that you can define this pattern that Bitcoin is currently in. A descending triangle, which I have drawn here with a triple bottom, and a descending trend line of resistance. This is a bearish pattern, and this typically is a continuation pattern. And if you draw the trend like this means that Bitcoin should break bearish out of this. We would more than likely break bearish out of this. But if you call this a falling wedge pattern instead with a trend line right here, then this is actually a reversal pattern, and we should expect Bitcoin to break bullish out of it. So like I said, there's two different ways that you can define this. I typically define it as a descending triangle pattern, because we do have basically a triple bottom down here, even if it's just a triple bottom with an area in between $6,000 and $6,500. But the bulls would say that this is going to break bullish out of whichever one of these patterns that we're seeing here, because the market sentiment, sure, the market sentiment is very bearish, but there's so much good news coming into the market. And since we are close to that bottom based on the actual price and the difficulty of mining Bitcoin, that we should see a bounce pretty soon. And if we can manage to get above this downtrend of resistance, Bitcoin should be able to start a new bull run. And that's why a lot of the bulls believe that a bull run is going to be starting in the next couple of months and moving on into the next couple of years. But guys, that's been it for this series. If you guys didn't watch the first video, I highly recommend you do it so that you guys can have an informed opinion on whether or not you believe Bitcoin is going to the moon, or if it's going to crash, if it's going to go to the graveyard, or if it's going to go to Alpha Centauri. Click the link in the top right. I think it's already shown up once for you. Click the link in the top right. Go watch that video if you haven't already, so that you can understand the bears case and why some of the bears believe Bitcoin could go as low as $1,300. And yes, another correction is that Tony Vase didn't necessarily say that Bitcoin will, or Tone Vase didn't necessarily say that Bitcoin will go to $1,300. He said it would be ideal for Bitcoin to go to $1,300. Sue me, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that he said that. He said it would be ideal that it would go down there. I apologize. But anyway, like I said, go watch that video, watch this video, which you already have, to get your own opinion on where you think Bitcoin will go. I'm all about you guys making up your own mind. I don't ever tell you how to invest. I might tell you what I think is the best investment or what I think is the best way to look at the market. But guys, I want you to do your own research and form your own informed opinions before you do any kind of investing, so that I don't get sued and so that you guys make money, so that you guys are comfortable with the way that you made the money, etc. But that's going to be it for this video, guys. If you aren't already following me on Instagram and Twitter, I highly recommend doing so at CryptoJebb on both platforms. And if you guys are just getting into cryptocurrency, or if you're an absolute veteran, I highly recommend the platform Binance. It is by far my favorite cryptocurrency exchange. You can sign up with the link in the description down below or in the pinned comment. It is a great cryptocurrency exchange with tons and tons of coins and a great user interface. You can also get half off your trading fees if you use Binance Coin to pay them. Also, if you guys aren't already in the Discord server, we're about to pass 200 members in the Discord server. We have a great community going. I highly recommend joining. There's a link to do so in the pinned comment down below. If it's not in the pinned comment, it'll be in the description of every single other video on the channel. So go ahead and join. I want to thank each and every single one of you for watching. Tell me what you think in the comment section down below. Is Bitcoin going to the moon, or is it going to the graveyard? I'm very interested to hear. Indeed, there'll be a poll in the top right to tell me. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.